Did you want the water meter?
Right, welcome back, everyone. I'm gonna start today's meditation session by just talking about something someone noticed they brought to me just before the session, which was we had a session yesterday, and part of her wanted to come, but then she felt a definitive resistance to coming last night. And I thought this is really interesting because this is in fact what happens when we enter on these practices. Sometimes that we do encounter a resistance because there is a fear of our attachments being threatened. And I want to say this is really important information, actually, when these resistances occur. And I would encourage you all, not simply to try to just override them, but rather to try to understand them, to listen to what those resistances are trying to say. And for that purpose, something like journaling can be really useful. Write down your feelings, try to come down to what exactly is the resistance about? What is it afraid of? Or what is it feeling? Getting in touch with your emotions, basically. Because ultimately, every resistance is a message. And the only way to get past resistances is understand the message, basically. Address it as best you can. And if resistance is going to be deep-seated and mysterious, then again, the right kind of therapy can be extremely helpful, because what that suggests is there's something else in the psyche that has not been dealt with. It's partly unconscious and that needs to be heard. So keep that in mind. But this is in fact what happens, right? You start to see, once you start to get serious with a practice, then the resistances start to get serious as well. So it's something to keep in mind. But it's a really good sign that these resistances manifest, because it suggests that there's real effort being made, and then there's going to be pushback.
So when the practice is getting serious, you think the resistance is equally?
I mean, it's not always,
stronger?
it's not exactly always an exact counterbalance like that, but but tends to be that whatever resistance is there, if you're not taking the practice too seriously, it's not going to be too worried. But if there's a resistance, right, once you start to get serious, I'm like, oh my God, this person's actually going to do this and go down this weird spiritual path, and it might destroy my life. Well, now maybe we don't want to go actually anymore because this is scary. So yeah. So with that, I also want to ask if anybody else has had any experiences over the last day or two. I'll just open it really quick. If they want to share any resistances or anything else that's come up while trying to do these practices in the real world.
So I had an experience this morning.
Okay.
Every morning as I wake up, I do chant, I pray, I offer some prayers. And when I was trying to keep my attention on the I noticed that it almost seemed like it was a radio playing. And it was not me. Soon my mind grabbed the attention and said, that's not what's happening. So I just noticed that.
Yeah, because you start to
share
see
it with you.
yourself, your own voice is like a ring, right?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Because this is exactly what happens, right? You start to see these pieces of yourself that were yours. Now they start to see like they're really something else, which is much closer to the truth.
This lasted a fraction of a
That's
second.
okay. That's okay. It'll happen again. It'll happen again. All right. So, well, again, I encourage you, right? The real ground is going to be real life, right? As you're trying to go out in the world and living right and trying to keep your mind focused like a laser beam on this. And I was telling a story to a couple of people a couple of days ago, which is one of the stories of from the Yoga Vashishta, where King Janaka is the enlightened king in India, and at some point, someone is going to approach him for instruction in knowledge of the self. And the king is very busy, and he says something like, I'm busy during the daytime, come back in the evening. But in the meantime, I'm going to have my guards give you a tour of the city. And I've instructed them to put a pot of water on your head. And if you spill even a drop of it, I've told them to behead you. And so the person goes around like that, and then he comes back in the evening and sees the king, and the king says, how is the city? And he says, what city? Right? Because there's no seeing the city when you're that focused on in this case, the practice, the pot of water. But the point is, when you're that, this is the level of practice to which we should aspire, where we're so focused on it, everything else disappears. This is why it's said in the Bhagavad Gita, right, that the wise person is awake to that which everyone else is asleep, and asleep to that which everyone else is awake. So, their focus is different. It's an inward focus, not an outward focus.
Can I ask a question about that, Akilesh? So in practicing in like daily life, what I found kind of dramatic is sometimes during the most intense experiences, like something stressful, I can maintain the practice. And then sometimes I'll just start making dinner or something mundane, even watching television, and then an hour goes by and I go, oh, I stopped. And so it doesn't feel like some like attachment. I just feels just like a distraction of something relatively insignificant.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. No, it's true. Distractions can be relatively insignificant, but I will say there's a little bit of a clue, possibly in what you just said, which is when there's a stressful situation, sometimes it can be easy to do it. And when there's something quote unquote insignificant happening, sometimes you forget. Well, in stressful situations, we're highly aware, alert, and activated, and also highly motivated to free ourselves from the stressful situation. And once we do the practice enough, we know the practice can be freedom from the stressful situation. So in a way, it's not that surprising that when we're in pain, we turn to the practice. I mean, that's often what people do. People turn to God basically when they're in pain. And when things are going relatively okay or positively well, then we forget. So because it's effort, it takes some effort to do it. And well, things are fine, why bother? Basically is what it is. So, it's not that surprising, I would say, because maybe you enjoy making dinner, maybe you enjoy these rather mundane activities. It may not be incredibly pleasurable or anything like that, but the point is, it is easy to forget when things are going well. It's well known, the positive side of life is in a way more insidious and more difficult to disentangle ourselves from than the negative. So yeah,
I suppose if I look at what's happening honestly, actually, it's like when I'm washing the dishes and doing something doesn't require a lot of mental activity, then what happens is I go, oh, cool, now I can let my mind wander and just think of useless stuff I normally think of. And whereas I can't do that when I'm in a stressful situation, it's more like, no, I need to focus on just this practice to get. So I can actually see that why that would happen.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
But it'll be mostly the other way around.
Most the other way in what then harder and stressful situations.
In a harder situation, you may not tend to focus instead.
I mean,
And when you are very happy and relaxed and you want to try out everything.
it can go either way. It depends on the person, I can see it going either way. But very often when we are in these, once you do the practice a lot, it is often the case that in stressful situations, I mean, it depends. There's no generalization you can make, but I can see it going either way.
What specifically happened, and just to be a little personal about it, is like my wife and I were having an argument, and it became very clear, like who is she angry at, and then also who is here feeling attacked, like he needs to defend himself. So that that was what's strange. Like, so it's stressful, but it just really highlights like you see defense reactions come up, and it's like, is that me actually being threatened? No, I don't think so.
That's
But
great. That's
yeah, it's funny.
yeah, exactly. That's right. In the midst of that, yeah, am I the one she's actually arguing with? Am I? Who's actually getting upset here? Absolutely. So that's fantastic. That's what we want. We want to bring that up because the reality is in that moment you can get that sort of eerie sense of like that radio playing, like, oh, this is just a scene I'm watching, actually. You know?
This is why I wonder if, short of any like deep realization, just almost on the psychological mental health well-being front, that's very helpful. To go like, I'm not actually being threatened here. She's saying things, but they're not really about me, real me. Not that I'm not responsible, that I may have caused it. I don't mean that. I'm not, accountable, but it turns the volume way down on the need to like be right and defend yourself and set the record straight and all that.
Yeah, well, correct. Yeah, because these practices, yeah, they have a lot of intermittent benefits before the quote unquote final goal. And that's one of them is starting to notice, notice the patterns that are playing out in your own mind and in other people's minds are the result of their complicated predilections, your complicated psyche, and they're not really to do with the other person, right? A lot of things that people say, they seem to be attacking you, but it's actually just their own mind at work, it's not really about you. And so you start to notice those things, start to notice your own mental patterns. These are all, part of the benefits of this work because you start to introspect, you start to see, oh yes, over and over again, it's like a mechanical thing, doing the same pattern again and again and again and again, so then you start to take it less personally, or you start to, be more compassionate towards yourself even, or not take yourself so seriously. A lot of things like that, 100%. And of course, there's the peace. Yeah, sure. Then there's the peace as well, which again, peace is not necessarily only something that you get at the end. It's something you get immediately as immediate benefit of the practice. So even short of the final goal, many important things come up, and what you're talking about is one of them for sure.
Thank you.
So with that, let's plunge into the practice. Yesterday we did a lot of self-inquiry. So today let's do a lot of surrender. And again, right, surrender is just extremely simple and sweet. It may not always be easy, but once again, I'll remind you that the basic idea is that we are continuously trying to guard the fortress of the mind and reclaim our attention from whatever experience is currently going on, to keep recognizing it as an experience and not permitting our mind to lose sight of the fact that it is just an experience. And simultaneously to not use our willpower, except in this very practice. And so, we're keeping very calm and quiet, and we're not trying to necessarily pay attention to anything particular. Rather, we are trying to not allow our attention to be sucked in by anything in particular, right? To keep our attention, so to say, moving, you might say, continuous movement of attention. So let's try that for 10 minutes. And yes, open eyed if you'd like, is my general suggestion, but not a requirement. Okay, anyone want to share?
Mostly my thoughts were focused on more than some thoughts coming to my mind as focusing on the process of how to do this surrender. And that the first thought came to my mind is like we usually practice this being in the moment. You're not attached to past or future and enjoy that moment completely. Enjoy that moment. Is it surrenderness? Is like by being surrendering, I'm protecting my fortress of my whatever my personality. But am I losing the happiness? Like I'm not totally involving with the happiness or sadness of the scene in that particular moment. It is opposite of being in the moment. So I how can I analyze and move forward from here?
So is that a question?
Yes.
Yeah, so no, this is a very good point. So, yeah. Being in the moment is, like many pieces of advice. I mean, it's true, but it's also misleading. So, because being in the moment suggests to people they need to pay attention to this thing that they call the moment. But actually, the only way to be in the moment, just like the only way to abide in the self, is a continuous series of letting go of everything else. Letting go of everything else. So as thoughts come to you, you're just continuously recognizing them as thoughts and not engaging. Relaxing. In that moment, in that flow, that relaxation, a total non-interest in whatever is happening on the screen, that's being in the moment. And when you say, for example, you're not enjoying certain things, that's okay, because the enjoyments of thought are only partial. You don't need to pay attention to some specific object to enjoy it. Rather, we're trying not to enjoy any particular object at all. But by letting go, we're falling back on an innate source of ecstasy that surges up. Because it's like there's an innate inner fountain of bliss you can just fall back on. Essentially, when you let go of everything else, you just fall back into that.
Yes.
So it's like, these analogy, like, be like a boulder tossed into the ocean. Just fall, right? All around you, seaweed, fish, blah, 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 are all there. And you're invited to grasp onto them. Just ungrasp, fall, right? So you have the pleasure of total relaxation, right? And the total, like, allowing, just letting go and like allowing whatever to happen, that, and then things happen. So that's the happiness we're looking at. Not any particular happiness that's occurring as an object in the moment. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I just want to know how can I differentiate
Yeah.
to surrender?
Exactly. It's different because you're not trying, because the moment is just an idea.
Yeah.
We're not trying to stick to any idea. We're trying to let go of all ideas. That's why, same thing with idea of, again, witnessing consciousness or something like that, abiding as a witness. I think I talked about it yesterday, right? Again, there's an idea that I'm going to abide as a witness as an idea. You don't want to hold on to any idea, including the idea that I'm watching. I'm watching is also an idea. Let go of all the ideas. Let go of all the ideas. Let them stream in front of you like foam, but treat them as irrelevant. Like you didn't even hear them. Like their voice is saying, you should do this, or this is that, this is interesting. And you just act as if you haven't even heard it. That's all you have to do. Like it's white noise, irrelevant. Like it's a tape recording, and you're like, whatever, it's for somebody else. None of this is important. It's all irrelevant, without exception. All of it, all of it, all of it.
So, but we keep saying that something serious happened to a contact or something, somebody, you know, and then I cannot say that it is, it's also a thought. But and then I say, okay, I myself is a thought.
Yeah, well, that's, no, that's
I'm getting rid of everything by removing my being or like me as a image, another image.
I itself being an image, you're saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Like my contact, what is happened in my contact is unreal. I am also unreal.
Sure. Well, and my point is simply, yes, exactly. But these things are also, truth is, whether you're unreal or not, both are ideas, actually. I'm unreal, I'm real, both are ideas, right? You can
Yeah,
ignore,
that's what I mean.
you can
It's
ignore
like
them both. You can
it's a
ignore them.
reality, like it's not an idea per se. It's a reality happening for, and in order to really kick this out is only by say, thinking that okay, me itself is an idea and
Yeah.
thought, and remove yourself and be focused on the awareness. It's not happening to me. It's reflected on the mirror for me.
Yes.
It's kind of I have to put in both. Yes.
You have to have this attitude that I'm unreal. That helps you do this.
Yeah.
Is what you're suggesting. Yeah, correct. That's right. So if those kinds of ideas and attitudes help you, which makes sense that they do, then use them. But ultimately, you know, surrender is, it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter if you say I'm real or unreal in the end. I mean, it helps you do the surrender, right? It helps you motivate yourself to do the surrender if you think about the philosophy, which is absolutely great. It's why you have the philosophy to motivate you to do the practice.
Not the philosophy alone, just to be focused on the like I am the awareness kind of.
That's an idea. So you don't want to be focused on any idea.
Yeah.
Your focus should be no focus.
Yes.
That's the focus. The focus is avoid foci. That's the focus. Make sense? No focus. Keep moving so you don't focus.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It's a continuous movie.
Yeah.
Reflections after reflection, real.
You're just letting go. Like you're letting go because the movie is trying to say, grasp onto me, believe in me, react to me, engage with me, right? That's what it's saying. And your job is simply to hold yourself back. No. That's it. Just open your hand. Don't touch.
Yes,
Don't touch.
yeah.
That's it. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing.
Moving real.
Yeah, it is. It is. So you know, that's all your job is, just avoid being hooked. And if you're hooked, unhook yourself.
It's not just a mirror alone, the moving mirror.
Yeah, you can say, well, the mirror is reflecting a series of moving
It
images.
is a moving scenery.
Yes, exactly. So if you keep your focus on the mirror rather than the images,
Yes.
then you will ignore the images, basically. Precisely.
So by default, you're always focusing on the image.
Correct.
Now
Exactly.
the focus has to be shifted to the mirror. That is the resistance which is happening.
Well, yes, of course, because now the mirror image is afraid of falling apart or disappearing or being hurt or being annihilated or having its life destroyed or whatever, all kinds of things. So, yeah, exactly, precisely.
So my acting onto the reality also, I can treat it like another passing cloud.
Yes, exactly. That's right.
I don't really attend to it, but I can attend and then I say that, okay, it's a passive cloud.
No, I mean,
Passing cloud.
no, you don't. Well, you don't have to attend to it. The only attention you have to give to it is just enough attention to ignore it. That's all. Right? It's like again, like a TV that you're ignoring in the background. You may have to just pay enough attention that you do not get hooked into watching the TV show.
Yes.
That's the only attention you need. You don't need to notice the details of the TV.
Mhm.
Just need enough to, because it's playing your favorite show. Your job is don't watch the show. That's all. So don't accidentally watch the show. You're just putting enough attention so you don't accidentally watch the show. If you do accidentally watch the show, then notice yourself watching the show and stop watching it, basically.
Yeah, but that's a movie, but I cannot, sometime like it needs attention, because the image is not really, it's a pseudo image.
No.
Sometimes it needs attention, sometimes some images don't need attention, that I can
Well,
understand.
no, which images need attention is the question.
For example, something really happening and I need to do some action.
No, that's exactly my point.
Ah,
You're challenging that.
yeah.
In surrender, you're saying, this is not about me.
That is good, yeah.
There's nothing which needs your attention. You just relax and you be like seaweed. Right? You say, whatever happens, right? This is the beauty of surrender. You're relaxing and you're like a feather in the wind. All the energy is being put forth by reality is doing all the work. You're delegating all the responsibility offloading it onto the universe, basically. Saying, you do everything. You do all the work.
Yes.
I'm not doing anything. Right? So because the reality is, right, we don't actually have control. But surrender is saying, okay, we don't have control, but then the consolation is we don't have to put any effort in. It's just like a movie that way. We have no control over a movie, and nor do we have to put any effort into its creation. So if we recognize we can just remain effortless, then actually the very same anxiety about what will happen becomes pleasure.
Yeah. I mixed up the like self-inquiry awareness.
Yeah, no, it's understandable.
That is why.
That's okay. No, these things will happen. Don't worry. You'll learn also.
And also I had to really not focus on the image going on by deep breathing initially. Then
Sure.
I said, I am only doing my surrender practice, not this.
No, that's okay. Look, I mean, you can mix them too. You can mix them. You can mix surrender and inquiry. It can be very helpful. And again, if things like deep breathing help you at times, that's fine. Everyone will have to find, I'm giving certain instructions, their own little way of working with themselves. Everyone is a bit different. So you have to find what kind of works for you, and the practice will teach you ultimately. Ultimately, it's going to be intuition. The purpose of these practices is develop a certain intuition. The intuition will lead you to where you need to go ultimately. These are just, primary instructions, but eventually you're going to develop a feel for it to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's what we're trying to create.
So intuition will lead to, what did you say?
Well, they'll lead you to your own way of going deeper into that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask another question, Akilesh?
Sure.
I have so much more of a problem with surrender than with self-inquiry, which makes me think I might be getting something wrong about it. Because I'm sitting here in a room, but I'm doing this surrender practice. Every time my eye falls on something, it's, normally it's like something I need to, this is my workout room. I should work out more. And then I don't know, just ignoring, nothing to do with me. I have to check email later, but it's kind of easy for me to defer. Like I'm deferring the interest because after this session, then I'm going to go check email and do all my stuff. But when I'm sitting there, say, working on a painting or replying to an email, telling myself this has nothing to do with me, that's like a non sequitur for me. Whereas I can do self-inquiry while doing those things. I can watch myself do the email while I'm focusing on the observer. But so the message, this has nothing to do with me, ignore it, is, I guess I'm not understanding it right.
Well, I mean, it might be the case that that surrender is, well, it's a very good question. I mean, it might be the case that when you're doing self-inquiry, you're kind of telling yourself you're doing self-inquiry, but you're kind of smuggling in more doing than you think you are, basically. Where surrender might be somehow putting you more on the spot as far as that goes and forcing you to relax more, so these kinds of things can happen. So, because the idea with surrender is, and with inquiry for that matter is, for example, let's suppose you're painting. It's not that you should never view it as I'm surrendering while I'm painting. It's that I'm surrendering, period, which means I'm relaxed and it's all irrelevant, whatever's happening. And if painting then happens of its own accord, so be it. But if it doesn't happen, then that's what it is. It's not my responsibility either way, right? So you're never trying to juggle two balls. Always trying to just juggle one ball, which is the practice. And everything else can happen or not happen, right? This is the letting go. Meaning you can no longer exert a control or decision about what's going to happen. What will happen, whatever it is, which is in fact the truth, regardless of whatever we think, you know. So we're just acknowledging that truth and enjoying that fact now. It's okay if it's going to happen, it's going to happen without me. So I can relax. Does that make sense?
Very much. Yeah, thank you. I'll try that. I'll try it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'll just take, I think I
Oh,
had a
please,
question
yeah.
and then I'll take you.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, what is the goal? You mentioned something goal of doing all this like surrenderness. What is the goal?
Oh, the
Like,
goal is ultimately liberation, right? So the goal is through the practice of surrender, your attachments weaken, because surrender is like a crate, puts you in touch with an inner peace that is not contingent on any external event. You know, you don't need certain things to go a certain way, because whatever happens, you're accessing something which is your nature, and your nature turns out to be bliss, in fact. So, you know, as you turn towards the inner bliss, the outer sources of happiness and suffering become less and less and less important. So those attachments weaken, and when those attachments weaken, finally, because you know what you're doing in surrender is, you know, again, you're noticing the mirror, then we're noticing the mirror, right? In that process, you're discerning more and more clearly what you aren't. And as you discern more clearly what you aren't, you also inevitably discern more clearly what you are. So ultimately, you know, you're going to the same place that self-inquiry is, which is, who am I? Basically, even though you don't ask that question, you are effectively doing that. And so eventually, when the attachments are weak enough, then you will surrender, in some sense, even the sense of being the witness, essentially. And it's something will become clear, you know, about what you actually are. That cannot be put in words. That's the goal. And then it will not be, an effort anymore to do surrender, but surrender will be recognized as what you are at all times, regardless. Yeah. And you had questions.
Yeah. So just in terms of practicing surrender, so let's say today I wanted to come here. So I there is a willful act of turning on my alarm. So when you're talking of surrender, are you saying don't turn on the alarm? You have, I mean, you know, there's somebody's put that information into your head. Wake up, you go. If you don't wake up, you don't go.
Well,
So, but that will easily let you slip into, you know, non-doing easily, right? Or ignoring or avoiding things.
Well, no, maybe not. So I wouldn't assume that. But actually, I'll go back a second to you said, you know, don't set the alarm. Well, actually, surrender does not say don't set the alarm. Surrender says when the question arises, should I set my alarm or not? That question is ignored. That does not mean you don't set the alarm. What it means is whether you set the alarm or not is not up to you. So if you're, you know, if Usha, you know, viewed as somebody else, right? This person happens to set the alarm. Okay, they set the alarm. If they don't, they don't. There's misconception, which is based on the illusion of individuality, that I must set the alarm. This decision is mine. But actually, none of these decisions are ours. So with the idea of a decision comes, what should I do? Should I do this or should I do that? This is a red flag. Ignore it. You don't take a side. You're not saying yes and you're not saying no. Neither. This is irrelevant to me. Does that make sense?
And then something does
Something will happen. Either you'll set it or you won't.
But I think that something sets the alarm, but I think at this point that separation is not clear, right? Because the I and whatever the illusion of the I, we think it's the same.
Well, right.
So when I set the alarm,
well, so
I'm not clearly understand. Or at least in my mind, there's no separation.
Well, right, exactly. So when you're setting the alarm now, you're feeling like I'm setting the alarm.
Correct.
And I'm suggesting you ignore it. And then of course, part of you can be like, well, okay, I'm ignoring it, but if I don't set the alarm, it's not going to be set.
Correct.
And then that's another thought that occurs, and then you ignore that too. And they're like, Mom, I have to set the alarm, or they're not going to wake up. You ignore that too. Well, what's going to happen tomorrow? Ignore that too, right? There's a series of anxieties that are going to arise. You keep ignoring all of them. And then you either set the alarm or you don't.
Suddenly you'll get an urge to set the alarm.
It may happen that way. It may
Yes.
happen that before you even know what the alarm is set.
Yes,
Quite possible.
yes, you,
And if that happens.
you
that
might
happens.
get that,
Yes,
so
exactly.
that's also you.
The intellect is putting in the work to do the discrimination, whether to set the alarm or not. So there's something at play. There's some training that's gone into you to do a certain way. So all that's
That's a
body,
work,
the body
sure,
mind ego is
Sure,
operating still, right?
sure.
And
I think so.
but you're saying, so it's almost a chicken and egg, right? Till you're not that won't operate perfectly. So if I'm pretending to be not that, will that screw up? I know you may ask who's worried about it being screwed up.
Well, nothing can, in fact, and the truth is, whether it's screwed, well, it's more than that, right? So it's not only that who's worried about being screwed up, that's part of it, for sure, but also the truth is, whether it's screwed up or not, is not under your control. Yeah, that's the way to look at it, right? There's a feeling that, oh my God, if I do this, then as a result of doing the practice, things will be screwed up. But the reality is, whether things are screwed up or not, has nothing to do with whether you do the practice, whether you do the practice or not. And the reason is because a practice is pointing out actually something that is already the case, namely that you are already not involved in any decision that the person takes. That's already the case. It seems like you are, that's the illusion. So, so of course, it's very, very compelling, very hard to.
It's a complete trust and that things happen. It's a complete trust.
Yes.
Things will happen.
As they happen, however they happen.
Like if you go in that thing, and then you watch it and then things happen.
Yes, whatever will happen will happen, and they may not happen. Go ahead.
I have noticed that I used to get up early for travel. So I used to set the alarm. And subconsciously, about 10 minutes before the alarm goes off, I wake up.
Exactly.
Many times,
Yes.
I automatically get up.
Yes.
It's not the same time. Sometimes it is 3 a.m., sometimes it's 4 a.m.
Correct.
Based on
Body
the flight time, it is all over the place.
Yes. You're fully capable of it. Exactly. That's right. Which is not to say people shouldn't set alarms. Maybe an alarm setting is fine. It's not a problem. The point is not that it's the problem with an alarm. The issue is your relationship in setting the alarm. You should relax and let it be set. And you're right, basically the reality is you'll see that even as you surrender, most likely, unless you're highly unusual,
I am going to sleep.
you will not suddenly stop. People worry like, I'm gonna surrender, I'm gonna sit here and never do anything ever again.
Right.
But you just try that and see if that's what happens.
This is the mortgage example.
Exactly.
So wait a little bit, right? So let's say there's a piece of technology that I need to learn from a book. Right, needed for work. That thought came to me.
Yes.
It's not my thought.
Yes.
Then I watch myself pick up the book and study it avidly and thrash out the concepts. I'm still not engaging with any of the
Yes.
thoughts that do that.
Yes.
But it's happening, you're saying.
Yes.
So something in between you is learning all that.
That's right.
And you're just
Precisely.
not the,
Precisely.
that's the sort of the zone you.
Yes,
you're talking about, right?
you're trying to stay as much as possible relaxed and treating whatever the learning is as irrelevant. It's not your responsibility, basically. So your aim is to stay as relaxed as possible and as unburdened and free as possible at all times. That's your job. Everything else can happen or not happen. It's basically.
So where does the aspect of discipline come into this practice?
Well,
The only discipline is to then.
the only discipline is the
practice.
practice. That's right. That's exactly right.
So then you don't need any other discipline.
Correct. All the disciplines are only to build the structure so that you can do this, basically.
I think it's a complete trust.
Correct. And the trust is built because the reality is when you start this practice, as you probably have already seen, you will not start with 100% trust. You'll start with 10% trust or something like that. And then it'll be built over time because you'll see, actually I'm surviving and, I'm in fact happier than before and whatever happens is fine.
Last time I tried half an hour, I am just going to lie down. And suddenly last 2 minutes before I have to go. And then suddenly I said, oh my goodness, I am putting Swamiji through trouble. No, I am not doing this. Okay, me, no problem. I'm not putting myself through trouble, no problem. I am really putting, that thought also occurred. And suddenly 2 minutes I got up and gone.
You see,
Everything.
this is what will happen, right? So we worry about not doing things, but the reality is that at the right time, if you're meant to do something, a thought will literally come and seize you, or seize the body, I should say, and make it do what it needs to do. So you don't have to worry about it. The thought will, before you even know it, the thought will seize the body and mind and make it do what needs to be done. So,
Actually, it's more than protecting a fortress. I think our, whatever the fortress we built till now, it is falling apart.
that's the way of looking at it, yes.
It's all-
Exactly, that's the way of looking at it, actually, that's true, that's a different analogy.
I think you made a good point when you said in self-inquiry, sometimes you can sneak in things.
Yeah,
And that's why it seems little, at least.
Easier.
to me, it seems easier.
I mean,
I'm practicing
yeah.
self-inquiry,
That's
yeah, I'm a very, I'm asking inquiry.
Yes, yes,
But I'm
yes,
just
yes.
going about doing everything.
Yeah,
I mean, the truth is, you can probably also deceive yourself with surrender, right? Self-deceit is a perpetual,
yeah, self-inquiry is
issue.
more appealing.
yeah. I mean, it's more appealing to you. No, I mean, because of that reason, because you can
Yeah.
sneak in other things.
I think it's easier because we are sneaking and.
Yeah, quite possible.
No,
quite
but
possible.
one thing,
So-
no, I really wanted to test that method of surrender, and then I really, like, very important critical thing going on, I did not act on it. I just let it go. Then
Uh-huh.
I see that the other players acting on my behalf,
Yeah.
and I am able to observe.
Yeah.
Because I let it go, I am able to observe that it's not you stop, but it's going to stop. And then
Yeah.
other players are doing it and things are happening, moving, and the beauty you start to unveil.
It's true, exactly. Something will happen for sure, 100%. The universe will do its workings and something will happen. As long as we don't have any preconceived expectations about what that something should be. Will certainly something
Yeah.
happen, that's 100%. With that, let's do another 10 minutes of surrender. All right, you want to share your experience?
Can I go again? After speaking to you and then doing this again, I really just had an interesting insight of how, well, I've noticed lately sometimes something will happen like I decide I'm going to go out to the coffee shop and get a coffee, and then 5 minutes later I'm actually walking the dogs. And I realized like previously I would be like, no, I decided I'm going to the coffee shop, so that's what I'm going to do. And it's almost like something is trying to assert control just for the sake of proving that it is in control or something. And I can sort of intellectually see why I ended up walking the dogs instead. I can look back and go, oh, they were standing there looking at me, and suddenly the coffee shop wasn't important. And if I go back and analyze it, but I now am seeing that like there's motivation, I guess you call it, which is sort of like a reflection of something that's about to happen or something. And then the thinking, and I spend a lot of time trying to control my motivation, like making myself want to do something that I think I should do.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I relax that, you're right, like stuff still happens and actually better stuff happen, more appropriate things happen.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. If you could recognize what you actually are motivated to do, simply allow that to be rather than trying to constantly change it, that would be better for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure. Want to say something?
If nobody else, okay. I was just focusing on the to do, and then I thought that's a must, Then I also want that's intense, to do list. And then I thought, okay, how can I be ignoring that? It has to be done. And then I said, okay, no, I am also being aware, and then less intensity, but I will do the things, what to do. So the focus of, it's not just something happening, something happening, you ignore it. It's not like that. It has to be done kind of to-do list for today or something like that. And then I thought, okay, I don't have to be so intense on that. And it can coexist, or like my more attention is on that awareness, and this also it pops up like that.
Well, I mean, that's, yeah, I mean, that's, look, so if you don't feel like you can do full surrender, right, you can do something.
Some steal the cycle. Then first I thought, okay, should I steal the cycles from the full awareness thing?
Exactly, steal your mental processor, right? But ideally, right, you know, if you're really surrendering, what do to-dos have to do with you,
Yeah,
right? It's scary to think that way, right?
yeah, that's true.
That's
Yeah,
what it
then
is,
I
right?
said, okay, let it happen. But
Let it happen or not, right? That's the pure surrender approach is, I have nothing to do to-dos. I have no duties, I have no to-dos, right? Let them come and whoever has them can come and do them, basically, right?
yeah,
But I know it's scary. I mean, so, you know, if you cannot do it in the moment, then you can do karma yoga as a step, as an easier step, right? Which is, or like you say, somehow try to keep some awareness while you're doing them. It's similar to karma yoga, basically. But ultimately, right, it is scary and exciting and beautiful, right, to completely let go
yes, yeah.
and
It's
say,
it's beautiful. Like I'm just saying, we
oh no,
you
it's scary,
really
it's scary.
complete trust and do it, and you did like, yeah, the highest priority awareness, then this keeps on
And
going.
you relax and you say, well.
Yeah, the relaxed and the innovative approches come.
But
That's
well,
also.
no, but the to-dos have to do themselves. That's what that be the approach. Seriously. Yeah. Because you view yourself as a third person, right? It's
Yeah.
basically like Geeta is over there. Geeta may have to-dos, and if she wants to do them, let her do them. I'm not her.
Yeah.
That's the way you look at it.
Also, you know, I've noticed sometimes the to-do list is wrong.
Sorry?
Sometimes the to-do list is wrong.
That's also right.
You made it a week ago and you're clinging to it. It's actually not.
That's another issue. That's another issue. Correct. The list itself could be wrong. Our ideas of our priorities could be wrong. That's all very true. But regardless, right, whatever it is, whether it's wrong or right, it's irrelevant. That's really the point. At the surrender level, you know, let it be whatever it is.
So while I was doing the technique this time, I found myself labeling the thoughts. It's not good to briefly label them and then not associate myself with them.
When you say labeling how?
It's a sound, it's a sign.
Oh,
That's a work related thought, or this is, you know.
it's helpful to you. You can do it for a while. I mean, I think eventually you'll find it may not be as necessary in the future. But if it's helpful to you to keep your attention focused, so to say, then that's totally fine. Yeah, not a problem.
And what if sleep comes? Do I say, hey, that's just a thought, and that the body and mind sleep with it? So,
Well, so interesting question. So, you know, if you go to sleep, honestly, it's not the worst thing in the world. But I will say, right, technically speaking, you know, you'll see eventually that sleep is a thought. And when you go deeper into surrender, you will appreciate the in some sense the bliss of staying awake. And you'll see because surrender will be so pleasurable, you won't necessarily want to go to sleep unless your body truly requires it. So what happens initially, sometimes sleep is like a defense against the practice. And in that case, eventually you'll get past it. You'll see this is just a thought to be ignored like every other thought. But of course, there is a physiological need for sleep. So, you know, if that comes, it's fine to yield to it, of course. And, you know, if you do go to sleep during the practice, sometimes it's not a problem. It just happens. It's fine. But, you know, in technically speaking, you know, as we are coming to subtler and subtler domains, because as you surrender, as that is to say, you keep noticing your experiences and regarding those experiences, the experiences which you notice will get subtler. And, you know, sleep is one of the subtler things that can arise. And then we just ignore that as well, ideally.
So as I was practicing this, I eventually found myself just going into a state where there was no thought. And so I just kept treating that also as a thought.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. The so-called no thought
good.
state.
That's all I was doing for a bit.
Great. That's perfect. That's perfect.
And I felt listening to that side part.
Exactly, precisely. So the so-called no thought state, you just keep on ignoring. And in fact, the no thought state is blissful. You know, if you want to actually maintain that for longer, this is the best way to ignore it. To ignore it is the best way of maintaining a peaceful mind for as long as possible, actually. And you had a question, I think? Yeah.
No, for me, it was, I think the fear which was thing has now become a game. So instead of thinking that I'm afraid, I'm watching it and saying, okay, we are playing a game now. So it has become like whenever I open my eyes and then, okay, I'm back here and then again. Game starts.
You go back and forth.
So that was what I was doing the 10 minutes.
That's great. I mean, that's fine. It's fine. It is a game of sorts, actually. It is a game of sorts.
Hilarious sometimes, scary sometimes.
Yeah.
So it was
Exactly.
like a game.
Exactly. It is a game. It is a game. This is a game for sure. Anybody else? Okay, well, then with that, I think we'll conclude for this morning and we'll see you everyone tonight at 7:30 p.m.
7:30 PST.
Pacific, exactly. And then tomorrow again, we'll have meditation.
It's not 6 p.m., it is 7:30 p.m.
7:30 p.m. Exactly. We expected that.
Today is at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Whoever can make it. please do.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Right.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So they in the some of the time.
Yeah.
I already put
She put it in by,
Number Bay Area, not Chantilly. That is where we communicate, right?
I don't know what the things conversation. Then what this goes into the, okay, Bay Area.
Bay Area.
Because I made myself.